Hey guys, happy Baby Name Monday. If you're brand new to my channel, I'm SJ. I make name lists here on YouTube. Every single Monday there is a new vintage list, girl list, boy list, bird list, invented name list. There are tons of baby name lists basically here on my YouTube channel. I'm also a baby name consultant, so that means I get called up a lot and asked for advice from you guys, and I also report in the press about baby names. It's a very niche job, but you know, there is a big calling for it, I'm sure, from somebody. So this week I am doing 10 beautiful but I think underused baby girl names. So the reason is a lot of these names we love are so enduring when it comes to girl names, like Olivia, Charlotte, Emily. There are some greats that have really stood the test of time, but often they've been taken, they've been used by someone else. And then there's this whole new wave of brand new cool names coming in, like Harper, the Evie, Ava, Evelyn, vintage trends. There's so much happening. The boy girl is girl names, but there is a bunch of names that kind of like almost we've forgotten about or are just really under cherished. So that's what I've got for you today. I've got my top 10. My list was absolutely huge of these beautiful but underused name lists. So do continue the list in the comment section below. So add 2 or 3 that you think really work for this list. I will be reading them all, I'll be replying, I'll be hearting them all, and it just means we can create a really useful resource and ultimate list here on YouTube. Also, don't forget to hit subscribe if you are new so you don't miss any Baby Name Mondays. You can hit the little notification bell as well, so you're always notified when there's a brand new name list available. So at number 10 is a very common name you'll have all heard, but I think is really underrated, and that is the name Anne. So I fell back in love with the name Anne during The Greatest Showman. Did you? That movie was just so huge. And Anne, as the trapeze artist, just made me fall in love with the name. Its simplicity, its beauty. So Anne, spelled A-N-N, only ranks at number 1,649 at the moment. It is so low down. It actually has the same ranking as the name Baby. So as many people chose the name Anne as chose to register their child just as Baby, which is crazy because it's such a well-known name. Anne has actually never been like in the really top 10, probably because of its different spelling. So it's the Anne with the E or Anne with just double N. There's also Annie. So there's so many variations of this name, and Annabelle is one of the highest ranking ones at number 233 here in the UK. Annabelle, which I think is absolutely lovely, but Anne by itself I think has got that beauty of simplicity of a name like Rose, where it just really stands out and you can just imagine using it so much. We're all massive Anne of Green Gables fans here as well. At number 9 is the name Molly. This name was on my name list for so long, and the name list that you have on your notes pages, like from way before you even are thinking about having a baby. I loved the name Molly. I think to me it was very American Girl Next Door, and I loved all those kind of like movies, you know, it's like a bit Meg Ryan-esque. I can imagine her being a Molly. Is she Molly in... And he said, is she Molly in When Harry Met Sally? No, she was Sally. But yeah, I love the name Molly. I just think it is such a beautiful one, and I think Molly from the Saturdays here in the UK, the British pop star, she really makes this, shows me just how it is a really cool and trendy name as well. Obviously it has the Y or the IE ending as well, and it's a pet form of the name Mary originally. It's only at number 58, which means there won't be tons of Mollys around in her class as she grows up or in the playground, but it is a really stunning one, and one that maybe is a little bit underused. At number 8 is the most popular name on the list, and that's the name Phoebe. I absolutely love it. It's at number 21. It's a name we've all heard. Obviously huge popularity from Phoebe from Friends. It's just a gorgeous name. Again, I had it on my name list, but I didn't go with it because I have 2 boys whose name begin with F. I've got Freddie and Finn, so Freddie, Finn and Phoebe sounded a bit much, but I think it is a stunning name. Whenever I see it, whenever I hear it, it's got such an unusual spelling as well, and it's got a beautiful meaning. So it means radiance or light. So she was also a goddess, so she was in Titan Greek mythology. Phoebe was actually the Titan goddess of prophetic prophecies, prophetic radiance. So often she is mistaken with Selene, who's the goddess of the moon, but she was kind of somebody who brought prophecy through radiance, which is such a perfect baby meaning, isn't it? I absolutely love the name Phoebe. Do you have a Phoebe? Do you know a Phoebe? Do you think it is slightly underused? I think it might start gaining in popularity. There's been such a huge revival of Friends, but in a kind of cool retro way now rather than the real zeitgeist ways, and that sometimes really helps when a name with cultural meaning comes through the ranks like that. And number 6 is the name Josie. I just think Josie is such an underused name. It is so pretty. It's got all the things we like about it. The IE ending is such a popular one for girl names. It's short and sweet. It's really, really cute, but everyone has heard it. It's got some cultural reference to things like Josie and the Pussycats, and I think it's really cool. It was a cartoon that then became a movie, kind of a teen one. So it's got that kind of reference, but it doesn't have any bad associations like some bigger names do. It's only ranked at number 283, so it's quite rare, but I think just so underused. Originally it came from a diminutive of Joanne, which itself is a feminine form of John. So if you've got a John that you're looking to name after or bring through from like your parents or from your husband, Josie is a really, really lovely one. I also love the fact that she could be Joey as a nickname, she could be Cece as a nickname. It's just a really lovely one. I think it's really underused and underloved. And number 5, probably one of my favourites from this list, and it is the name Hannah. I've got such a big thing about the name Hannah. It is one of those words, what do you call it? I wrote it down somewhere. It's a palindrome, so it's spelled the same forwards and backwards. I just think it is such a lovely name whenever I hear it. It's very girl next door. It's very, very pretty. It looks so pretty written down, but it's not unusual. It is only at number 158 without an H spelling, or at number 62 with the H at both ends, which I prefer. But let me know which you prefer, Hannah with an H or without an H. So at number 62, it means it's still not the most common name out there at the moment, but it's so pretty. It's very linked to being a biblical name, of course. Hannah Montana was obviously a really, really popular character. There are so many characters named Hannah, so I think it must just be one of those names that everyone warms to and likes. If you're looking for a likeable, friendly name, you can't really go wrong with the name Hannah. What do you think of it? Is it too normal and not special enough to you, or do you, like me, think, wow, no, I really love that? Juliet is next on my list. So Juliet was on my name list. It was probably, I had Matilda or Juliet had my first baby being a girl, and then it became Tilda he would have been, but Juliet I just think is so lovely. Obviously it's a Shakespearean name, Romeo and Juliet. I tried to find out why Shakespeare chose the name Juliet, because he was very intentional with his names, especially in Romeo and Juliet with the famous quote about what's in the name. Juliet Capulet. I always think that was a funny combination because it doesn't really roll off the tongue as Romeo and Juliet obviously does. Juliet's just such a gorgeous name. It's only at number 523. Jules is a really cool nickname. Julia and Julie and all of those have been so well used. Juliet is just so stunning to me, and I absolutely love that it's got the literary, strong, you know, unmistakable literary reference to it. In French apparently it means youthful, which could be why Shakespeare chose it, because Juliet is about like 13, isn't she, in the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. She's very, very young. I love the movie, the Baz Luhrmann version of it. I think growing up she would have a beautiful name, and just one that you can't really shorten because it's so pretty. Etta is such a popular name. I just want to sell Juliet to everybody, so I think it is such an underused one. And the next name is an unusual one because it originally was a man's name, which I had no idea about, and it's the name Meredith. So when I research these names, I always look on name forums to see what people's opinion is of the names I'm choosing. This name had so much love, and funnily enough, somebody actually wrote what I was writing this list about, which was that she called her daughter Meredith a couple of years ago, and she often gets compliments on her normal but underused name. I was like, ah, that's what my whole list is about, so Meredith has to go on there. So really unusual that it used to actually be, originally it was a surname, a Welsh surname, which then as surname names became more of a boy name, but in the 50s it switched and became a girl name, Meredith, and it's got a couple of different meanings to it. Sea protector is the one I love the most, so mare meaning kind of sea, and the dith meaning I protect, so it's got like a bit mermaid vibes to it as well, doesn't it? Meredith, mermaid. So if you're into mermaids, or if you've got an older sibling who's a daughter who is, then you can always sell it in with Meredith. I just think it sounds so lovely. This name always sticks in my head from a friend of mine who had a girlfriend called Meredith, and I never even met this girl. I was always like, where's Meredith, because I just loved the name so much. Okay, so next one is the name Abby. So I worked with an Abby and I loved her name, and she wasn't like this cool young trendy girl. She was like kind of an old woman, a bit of a battle axe, a bit scary, but I just always thought her name was so pretty. Downton Abbey, obviously Abbey is a place with an EY. I wonder if Downton Abbey will help this come into popularity, and Abbey obviously was where nuns used to live, so it's got very Sound of Music vibes to me as well, and I'm a huge Sound of Music fan. I just think the name is absolutely lovely. So it's only at number 1243. So there's hardly any Abbeys out there. Abigail is one of the highest ranked sort of longer versions of this name, and number 77. But what was interesting about the name Abigail was apparently in the Bible, biblical Abigail referred to herself as a handmaid. So to be an Abigail apparently became associated back in the 1600s as being like a kind of a servant or a serving girl. So Abigail, the name, became less popular with like the upper classes and kind of died out a little bit, and became less popular, which I thought was super interesting. But Abby itself is just such a beautiful name. I don't know what it is about it that I just think sounds lovely. I think that Phoebe would be a great little nickname for an Abbey as well, and I think it's just one of those that's so out of style and should be coming back with a bang, in my opinion. What do you think of Abby? Number 2 is the name Beth. So Beth is obviously the lead character in Little Women, and the movie Little Women is just out now. It just was nominated for an Oscar, wasn't it? But I have never read Little Women. If you can't believe it, I've never read it. I've never watched the movie. I know nothing about Little Women, but I do love the name Beth. And it obviously was a short form of Elizabeth, and Beth became really well known as a name all of its own, so it doesn't really feel like a nickname name in the way that Lottie does for something like Charlotte. Beth by itself just sounds so vintage and so pretty to me, but also a little bit quirky. Like, I don't know what it is about it, just Beth. You could be anyone with the name Beth, but you can definitely style it out, and it just seems really, really cute. Bet as a cute little nickname for a Beth. There's tons of things you can do with it. I really, really like it. It's always been one I like. I don't know why. It speaks to my heart somehow, the name Beth. And at number 1 is the name Sadie. So Sadie is at number 115. I think it is such a cool girl name. It is a vintage classic. It was so popular in the 70s, so that's why it's so sort of trendy. It was obviously Sexy Sadie was a Beatles song, which has actually got really political history to that song. I looked it up and it was apparently written by John Lennon about the Maharishi after a bit of a tough trip to India. But I just love the name Sadie. I think it's a really quirky choice. Again, it's one of those names that's not unusual. Everyone has heard the name Sadie, but you don't hear it being used enough. It is a nickname for the name Sarah, so again, a bit like Josie. If you have a John, if you have a Sarah in your family, then you can commemorate them, honour them, what's the word, with the name Sadie. And so it means princess, the same as Sarah does as well, which is absolutely lovely. To me, this has got real vintage vibes. It's got kind of like band girl vibes. Somebody really trendy who's going to be hanging off the arm of like John Lennon, and the next Harry Styles is next, isn't he? I don't know who's next after Harry Styles. Anyway, she's going to be like a rock star chick kind of girl. You can imagine her down at the festival with Sadie, and I think it's a really, really lovely one. So those are my top 10. As I said, I had a massively long list, so I'd love you to keep adding to this list in the comment section below. Get involved in the community tab, and let's do this list for boys. So I will pop that on the community tab and let's start writing them down. Boy lists are hard when it comes to this category because we love the traditional names. So let's see what we come up with. Don't forget to subscribe for the next one, and I'll see you then. Bye guys.